Hi all, welcome to another episode of Coaching Conversations. How you doing, Paul, today?
Hello, Kapil. Nice to see you, and absolutely welcome to you as well, and to those of you who are watching this video right now.
So today, what is our topic we're going to talk about?
So we're going to talk about the challenges that we might sometimes have in being yourself at work, and what the benefits also are of that.
Great. Yeah. So from my perspective, I've actually started a new role about 2 months ago, and one of my main challenges was when I was speaking to my manager, my finance team members, and also the wider company. The question that came to my head a lot of the time was, "Am I being an authentic person?"
That's a really interesting thing, and that word, of course, is really important because it's something that both you and I work a lot with as coaches, with our clients as well. This idea of
Mm.
being as authentic as you possibly can when you are at work.
Yeah, it's quite a challenge because for me, I'm trying to differentiate my personal life, my social life, and my work life. And rather than trying to mix all three together, I want to be that same person wherever I go, whether it be on a work call or any kind of social interaction. So that's what was the main challenge for me in that case.
Yeah, and that's really interesting. I think for those of you also, if you're watching, if you want to leave a comment below about your experience of being yourself at work and thinking about it as you're watching this video, that would be really interesting for us
Mm.
to learn about. So I think this has got to do with personality types, and it has got to do with self-confidence. And there are two things that immediately come to mind for me, and that is what we call internal and external locus of control. And let me just go through what that means. So if you have a person who is full of internal locus of control, it basically means that they feel that they are in charge of their own destiny and their life, and they make decisions about what's going to happen. It's a bit like having free will. If you have external locus of control, on the other hand, it means really that you think that you're not in charge of your own life, and your life is down to fate. So whatever happens to you, there's not much you can do about it. And I think as we are all a mixture of both, and maybe we have more internal locus of control when we are home, and a little bit more maybe external locus of control when we are working in a company, for example. But I think just thinking about those two concepts will raise our awareness
Mm.
of how we are responding to those types of situations where we maybe feel that we are not really ourselves, and what it is that then we can change.
Yeah, and I think awareness is a massive part here because that's the one word that came to my mind as well as you're describing the locus of control. And I think for most of my life, I've been letting external factors determine how I feel about what's happening around me until I realized and became aware that if I look at my own internal factors, what I can control, it can allow me to control my emotions, my physicality, and how I want to respond back to the world as well. So it's worked in many different situations at work, at home, again with friends and family, and all sorts. So something which I think I want to get better at as well. As you said, Paul, I don't think there's like a perfect way to actually balance the two out, internal and external. So I think it's finding that optimal solution to what really works well for you.
Yes, absolutely, because we are on this type of continuum between the two all the time. And I
Mm.
also think that it has got something to do with what situation you are in at work. So there's a big difference if you're together with your colleagues in a lunch break, or if you are sitting in a board meeting,
Yeah.
because the agenda will, of course, be different. And I think particularly if the agenda is not set by you, so let's say you're not the CEO, for example, then maybe it is more difficult to be yourself and access feelings that
Mm.
actually could be beneficial to the situation you're in.
Yeah, and I think this is where the boundaries come into place because once you start building those relationships with those people in the workplace, you kind of start to find yourself as a person as you start weeding through each of your individuals in that workplace. So once you know how people will react with you, and I think the best way is to express yourself only when the boundaries allow you to. So rather than doing it from day one in a new workplace, you kind of want to experiment a little bit, do a bit of trial and error, maybe test somebody, people like, how's this person reacting to my ideas that I'm bringing to the table, for example. So I'm sourcing those situations today to kind of see how best can I express myself in a meeting, or it can be in a presentation, all sorts of different environments.
Yeah, and I think what's coming up there is perception. So the perception of
Mm,
people and the situations that you're in. Because if you just, go to work and say, well, I'm just going to be myself, you're maybe not really being very considerate to other people. So, and if you're working part of a team where we are looking for interdependence, and this is the idea that you can do your own work, but you can also be part of a team, which is
hmm
is possible. I think behavior you can demonstrate at work and really anywhere else in life.
mm.
Then sometimes you have to say to yourself, well, yeah, I'm thinking about this right now, but I'm not going to say it or show it because it's not beneficial to everyone else in the room.
Yeah, I think it differs, role to role because I think a lot of roles can be process driven, and the other side of it is how can you bring your own creativity to the role to make a process more efficient or a better way of working with other people in the team as well. I think that's probably one of the better ways to express your creativity to the wider team as well, rather than saying, "Oh yeah, I know the process A to Z. Let's just do the same thing day in day out," but rather actually bringing something different to the table, a new flavor, and that's how you can really bring yourself as a new asset to that company as well.
Yeah, and I think that that's actually really true. And in comes there then, this thing about being a sensitive person, sensitive to yourself, obviously,
Mm.
but also sensitive to those around you. There's another thing, which is just the whole biological aspects of being able to know when you maybe can be yourself a little bit more, when it's appropriate, and when it's maybe not quite the right thing to do in some situation. And it's just a biological aspect of the fight and flight situation or
Mm.
respond, as it's called. So where we maybe if we have less of that, we are less frightened and therefore maybe more willing to open up about who we are. But there's another thing where this really is important, which is in relation to work, and where I think it's really, really important, and that is when you're going for an interview. So instead of trying just to be the person that is in the job description and based on the research that we might have done on the company and this is the kind of profile they're looking for, I think there for the benefit of yourself, if you get the job in long term, the more you are yourself, the better it is.
Yeah, I do agree with you, Paul, because for example, for most job applications, you got a CV where you're kind of expressing your experience. When it comes to an interview, you're actually expressing and you're trying to sell your personality as well as your experience. And in that sort of interaction allows you to really tell the other person, the interviewer, who you are as a person. How do you react and how can you be proactive in certain situations in the workplace, and also try to gauge the kind of person that you are outside the workplace as well. And that way, the interviewer can see whether you're the kind of best fit to actually be working in that team, in that organization, someone who can actually express the values that the organization delivers as well.
I think that was absolutely brilliantly put, because what you said there was values.
Mm.
And if we are actually looking at job interviews and our day-to-day work at our jobs and so on, it's actually values that are important because that's what drives success.
Yeah, and this is the question for myself sometimes. I don't know about you, Paul, but what are my own values and how do my values align to what the organization values as well? Sometimes there can be misalignment, sometimes there could be full alignment. And I think when there's more alignment to your values to what are in the organization, you can actually be more authentic that way because you're actually expressing yourself in such a way where the organization will recognize that as well. On the flip side is if you're trying to be yourself in a workplace where they don't really value who you are as a person, then it can be a bit difficult, and that's where barriers are, being put up, and there could be a lack of trust as well, I suppose, in the organization.
Yeah. And I think that because values can obviously change over time, your own values can change, but so can that of a company to a certain extent. And
Mm,
if you are working in a place where there's a lot of trust, which we know is developed through having a coaching culture within your company, there will be an opportunity and a space for you where you can have that kind of discussions with people, whether that's your line manager, your colleague, or both, where you're saying, well, where are our values now and how is that
mm.
aligned what we're doing? Because again, that is key also for your customers. If your company who are selling a product, then values are absolutely key, not just in terms of your service, but actually in terms of what it is you're delivering.
Yeah, and even when an organization or a company might, say to you many different ways, this is what we value and this is our culture. I think you, as the employee, as the individual, you know yourself over time whether you're being valued or you feel like you're working in a safe space to be valued. And you know that you can express yourself in a way where you can just be that person that you want to be in that workplace as well. And sometimes when you don't think you don't have the freedom to do that, that's when your motivation might go down. You feel like you don't have people around you that can trust you. And the question is, how much longer can you really take this as well? So it's a lot of to take into account there.
Yes, and that actually leads me to something else that I just thought about in terms of
Mm.
our discussion, and that is this thing about if you discover that the values are not aligned anymore, and therefore you really feel that you can't be yourself anymore, maybe then that is the time either to have that conversation, maybe with your line manager or whatever, or say to yourself, actually, I need to move on because this doesn't work for me anymore.
Yeah, and for me, from a personal experience, like when I had to evaluate my own values, that's when I realized that when I'm actually aligned with my own values, whether it's in the workplace or outside the workplace, that is when I'm being the most authentic person. Otherwise, if I'm operating in such a way where I'm outside of my values, not aligned to my values, then I'm trying to be somebody else. I'm trying to fit in a certain way in either the workplace or any kind of social setting. So there tends to be a lot of friction there as well. But I think again, when you talked about awareness, being aware of your values, that's when you know whether you are doing the right thing. Being with the right company who has the same values as you, and being aware of that. And if you don't have those values aligned, then you know where you stand and what could be the next option for you.
Really good way of ending this conversation today, where we just had a few uh, pointers towards being yourself at work and looking at some of those really important issues.
Yeah, no, totally. And for you viewers out there, if you had your own experiences of being valued in the workplace, being able to express yourself, and trying to be the most authentic version of yourself, we would love to hear about your experiences.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Kapil, and bye for now.
See you, Paul. Take care. Bye bye.